How do issues really get on regulators' desks? Well, perhaps there was a news story that was of note, and then somebody from the Federal Trade Commission or the California Privacy Protection Agency or another, a state AG saw that, took an interest in it, and said, well, why don't we do a little informal investigation, or maybe we'll do an industry sweep or whatever. So that's one way that things happen in response to news articles. Another that I think a lot of companies don't fully appreciate, in my experience and years of being, in this industry and in the law, is it's often competitors. It's competitors of yours that think that they're doing something the right way and they had to invest the time and money and resources to do so, and you're not. And it's not fair that you're doing, well, or not having to deal with these things when they are. And so, what do you know? An anonymous comment gets dropped on the FTC's reporting page, or the state regulator, which California, again, it has a place where you can write them. They have a way to submit information that suggests that a company isn't being compliant with the California Consumer Privacy Act, for instance. And you see this in other ways. And so, just flagging that is one of, in terms of like how do you get on a regulator's radar? Well, that may be one. It may be a competitor dropping a dime. It may be a news article. It may be that, an investigator at a regulator gets a list of 50 websites and is told, hey, why don't you check out these websites? Let's look for issues that are of non-compliance. And they look for the big areas and like public facing things, and then that gets us to these areas that we're flagging here that we want to discuss further. And one of them is dark patterns, this idea of putting a finger on the scales, to subtly override a consumer's free will or choice by setting things up in such a way that you're more funneling them to what you want them to do than having them make a sort of a fully informed, choice of their own free will. And so we'll look at dark patterns further in a few slides ahead. Another area is state UDAP statutes, which are the unfair and deceptive acts and practices statutes. California, for instance, has the UCL, the unfair competition law. And every state has a UDAP statute that more or less, looks at deceptive practices and says, hey, if you materially deceive somebody and it caused them to do something, that is likely going to be violative and may subject you to fines or injunctive relief. FTC as well, certainly under Section 5 and other sections of the Federal Trade Commission Act, has broad authority to regulate unfair and deceptive trade practices and practices. Another one that we'll look at, I think, very soon is wiretapping and state recording statutes. That has been a huge area where the plaintiff's bar has attempted to take modern technologies and apply them to legacy laws to expand them, or in some cases to seek quick settlements, but using that as an area that undermines consumer trust. Also, compliance with state privacy laws. We have the CCPA, we have Connecticut's regulator, Connecticut's AG just doing its enforcement action. We have a lot of activity with the Federal Trade Commission in different areas, including dark patterns, including sharing information through pixels and health companies and sharing of segments. We have the Video Privacy Protection Act. That's not a state law, but that's a law that's been sort of resuscitated a lot in recent years, again, with the use of tracking technologies and cookies. Yeah, and then the transfer of sensitive information to third parties through technologies like pixels and conversion API, advanced programming interfaces, that we can talk about. So those are kind of some of I'd say the main areas where consumer trust issues are being, hit upon and flagged under the law, under current laws. And, it means your company needs to kind of be on top of and aware of these big areas.